Parshat Terumah. We now begin a 5-week series with the Torah telling us all the details about the instruction to Moshe on building the tabernacle and then how the Jewish people actually built the tabernacle. And we begin by the collection of the materials needed to build the tabernacle in the desert, the sanctuary that was for God's presence in the desert. And we are told right at the beginning of this week's portion that Hashem says to Moshe, speak, Daber el b'nei Yisrael, speak to the children of Israel, v'yikchu li terumah, and they shall take for me a donation. That's how it's normally translated, v'yikchu li, they shall take for me terumah, a donation. And then we are told of the different materials that they needed, zahav, v'chesef, and the choshes, gold and silver and copper and all the different materials. V'yikchu li terumah. It's a bit strange, I'm sure you will agree, that it doesn't say v'yitnu li terumah, they shall give. Why does it use the expression they shall take, as opposed to v'yitnu li, they should give to me a donation? After all, this was going to build the sanctuary of Hashem. And there are a great many lessons learned from, and insights learned from the Torah choosing the word v'yikhu, and I'd like to share one or two with you as follows. V'yikhu, to take, means to acquire. When you buy something, you acquire. In Hebrew, it would use the word kicha, to take it when you acquire something. What Hashem is telling Moshe, and what the Torah is telling us as well, is that in fact, none of this belongs to us. It all belongs to Hashem. V'yikchu li terumah, you shall take for me, for my sake, you should take to build a sanctuary. That the money that we have actually belongs to Hashem initially. And v'yikchu li terumah, you shall take for me, means that you are taking, by actually giving, you are acquiring something. What you are doing, you are acquiring the mitzvah of being able to use the money that Hashem has given you to be able to do something good with it. Because ultimately it all belongs to Hashem. And this is the expression v'yikchu, that you shall take, as opposed to v'yitnu, that you should give. After all, what do they say? Money is the root of all evil. And it is true that you can trace, unfortunately, most bad things to the root being some sort of money concept. But also, money can be used for good. And this is what the Torah is telling us, that we have an obligation to use it for good. It has no worth until we use it for good, in which we now acquire something good with it. It's not just a physical good, but a spiritual good. You should take for me, by spending the money on the building of the sanctuary, you are going to actually be taking something, and it's the idea of tzedakah. Tzedakah is not that I'm giving away, but rather I am acquiring good deeds by using my money for Torah, for mitzvahs, for good deeds, whether it be for tzedakah or whatever else it may be. The expression that is being used, v'yikchu li terumah. And in fact, this is hinted in the next few words as well, because it says, who should you take from? Me'ez kol ish, from anybody, asher yidvenu liboy, who his heart motivates him. Yidvenu nedava, it's a gift, his heart wants to give a gift. And the idea over here is being that asher yidvenu liboy, where his heart wants to give. That's tikhu et terumati, that's who's going to acquire for me. If we don't want to give it, if our heart is not motivated to give, then actually we haven't acquired anything, because the money didn't belong to us in the first place. We may give, but if our intention is not there to do something that's good, but rather we feel that we have to, then we don't acquire anything. When do we acquire something? Asher yidvenu liboy, when our heart motivates us, that we, in our heart of hearts, we want to do this, we feel we want to do the right thing, and we want to do this, then we get merit, because that's all we have. The money itself doesn't really belong to us, it belongs to Hashem. It belongs to Hashem. The famous story that is given of, mentioned in the name of a number of people who came to the queen. Some people say it was Moses Montefiore, other people say it was a Rothschild. The point is the story itself, where they asked for a loan. The queen asked for a loan, and he came and said, this is how much money I have. And she said, but I know that you're worth a lot more. He says, yes, but this is all the money that I've given away that would always stay with me. What is my real worth, my true worth, is the money that I have given away, that I have given to tzedakah, because that I acquire something. And that is the message that's being given over here. Any money that we have, and please God we should all be blessed with riches and wealth, is to ensure that we have the opportunity to do good deeds with it. Then we acquire something. If we spend the money otherwise, it's not true acquirement. And this is part of the idea that's been given over here. How do we do this? We build a sanctuary, not only a sanctuary in the desert, but also v'asuli mikdash v'shachanti v'soicham, that we are told you shall make for me a sanctuary and I will dwell in them. The famous insight here, in them, plural, but surely there's only one sanctuary. It means in each and every one of us, we individually have a sanctuary called our bodies. Our soul is in the sanctuary of our bodies, and we have the responsibility to make it into a sanctuary. And how do we do that? The lessons are being given in the building of the physical sanctuary. We can learn the lessons of how we make our bodies into a sanctuary for God's presence. One of the ways is by the ark. The ark, we are told, was a Masayim V'Chesi Orkoi, which was 2.5 amos by 1.5 amos, and the insight that's given over here is that why does it use half measures? Everything else was in full measures, 2.5, 1.5, but what's being told to us over here is that the Aron represented the Torah. In the ark was kept the tablet, that represents the Torah. What's being told over here to us is that we should always remember, however much Torah we learn, however much knowledge we have, it's only half. We're not complete. There is so much more that we can learn, and we should always be striving for that extra half to be able to know whatever we know at this point is only half of what we can know, and the Torah is never ending, and we should constantly be studying Torah. And this is part of the lessons that are being given to us from the building of the sanctuary in the desert, to know how we can make a sanctuary for ourselves, to make our bodies a dwelling place for God. Thank you for watching, and once again I apologize for the lesser quality, the poor quality of the video this week and last week. I have technical issues which hopefully will be resolved by next week, and we'll be back to full quality. Thank you for watching, and keep watching.